Troubled twin boys, played by Christian Convery and Theo James, discover a wind-up monkey doll as a kid, and throughout their lives learn the hard way that once activated, it can kill anyone nearby in a random Rube Goldberg fashion in Osgood Perkins' The Monkey. A movie that when I found out it was going to be a dark comedy got really nervous because I didn't think Perkins was that good a filmmaker in order to pull something like that off. It's considerably different from the tone of his other movies, but because half of them I legitimately loved, I wanted to give him the benefit of a doubt and hope he could do something different. And I will say this, The Monkey certainly proves that he could have. The comedic kills in this alone are worth watching The Monkey at least once. The scenarios, setups, payoffs are all entirely unpredictable, super creative, have a ton of great buildup with the editing cutting between different nonchalant and painfully obvious appliances that can turn into a Rube Goldberg death trap at any given point. Whether it's a harpoon that pulls out someone's intestine like it's a sausage factory, my personal favorite involving a stovetop and a for sale sign, hell, Osgood Perkins has a cameo just to turn himself into the grossest bolognese I've ever seen. And while it's nowhere near as gory as Neon would want you to think, and I'll get into why later on, each death itself was so cartoony yet gross that my jaw was on the floor the entire time. Most of the gory effects are done with prosthetics, makeup, and puppetry for the actual monkey itself, with CGI being used when it's absolutely necessary. And obviously, the practical effects are more impressive, and the CGI, while noticeable, leads to some imaginative scenarios like someone's head being on fire as they're running away screaming in agony. It's just so imaginative you can overlook that. The monkey's very presence, and every time it builds up a death every time it's activated, was easily the tensest part of the film, and not gonna lie, my heart raced a little bit every time it did. It follows the usual shtick of the doll that teleports everywhere. We never see it do the deed, but it clearly has a mind of its own. And there's actually a couple rules on what it can or can't do. Without getting into specifics, a human can weaponize it, but only to a certain extent. Its decision-making and who lives and who dies is entirely its own, it's always a mystery, and it could have led to some scary, profound, yet hilarious insights on how everyone dies, but the when, where, how, and why is never certain. The overall comedy in this, like every Osgood Perkins movie, is gonna make or break it for the audience, and it'll all come down to personal preference. And because there's little to no effort at character development, this script uses this sense of humor as a crutch. And to be honest, going in, Perkins has always been a much better director than writer, that I kind of figured the jokes would have sucked on paper, but the direction and editing would have saved it, but it's ironically the other way around. Sometimes this script has the style of dark humor that I thoroughly miss in comedies these days. Then it has random shit just for the sake of being random, and look, I got wicked sideburns. Like, that's funny, right? Okay, well, that's all I got. Give me a D, give me an E, give me an A, give me another D. He's dead, and why is there a cheerleading squad cheering on the corner? Like, yeah, it didn't work. But as much as Perkins had the right idea going into this, his timing and delivery, while obviously intentional, in my opinion makes the wrong creative choices. Here's a reenactment of a scene that, had it been done this way, I would have laughed my ass off. Everybody dies. I'm gonna die, you're gonna die, your friends, their family, their pets. Some of us peacefully in their sleep, some of us horribly. And that's life. You see the faces I made when hearing something that fucked up and depressing? Those are the kind of reactions that, in my opinion, this needed in order to be funny, but most of the time, it plays out like this instead. Everybody dies. I'm gonna die, you're gonna die, your friends, their family, their pets. Some of us peacefully in their sleep, some of us horribly. And that's life. Yes, it's technically dark, and the setups and punchlines are there, but it's so deadpan that instead of laughing it off, it's just unpleasant watching constant mean-spirited material. It's one of those dark comedies that confuses how far you'll go just to be mean without finding the right balance of mean-spirited and likability, because even the best, most fucked up comedies know how to balance it out. Even the gory deaths feel a little held back by the dry reactions everyone has. When you hear of a comedy horror movie about how death comes for us all, you expect everyone to freak the fuck out every time someone bites the dust. But instead of a reaction like this, there's a lot more of nonchalant shit like this. And to be honest, which one is scarier and funnier than the other to you? Because I've already made my pick here. And a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on this, but even though the death scenes themselves are good, the build-up was excellent, I didn't think it was as gory as everyone was building it up to be, as opposed to a 90s Sam Raimi movie, which a lot of critics are already comparing this to, where the violence is in your face for what feels like a while, And that's the reason it's intense yet hilarious at the exact same time. The actual splatters themselves are kept in a wide shot, so there's already a far enough distance where you can't make out anything, and they cut away on impact probably to make it feel a lot more random, but again, compare and contrast. If you're gonna brag that multiple TV channels refuse to advertise your movie for how bloody it is, it needs to be just as, if not gorier, than stuff like this, and to be honest, I didn't think it was. If you're like me and the comedy or gore didn't quite meet your expectations, there's not much else you're gonna like about this. The characters, I'm not sure if the idea is we're supposed to put ourselves in their shoes during these fucked up scenarios, but they're so thinly written and downright unlikable with hardly any redeeming qualities that when you're supposed to laugh at or with them, I certainly didn't, and when this movie tries to have heavy drama about dysfunctional families, accepting death, reconciliation, all stuff you expect from a Stephen King movie, and once in a while they kind of get right, I didn't feel sorry for them because most of the time we just watch these guys being complete dickheads to each other. And look, I know that part is intentional. Theo James in this is supposed to be such a distant father that his son calls him by his real name. He's 16 years old and yet doesn't know his grandma or uncle's name. Hell, he doesn't even know he has an uncle. And since their twins had an absent dad, their mom constantly bickered about being left by a deadbeat to raise 2 kids alone and the whole family curse thing. We all know why they're flawed individuals, but when they're kids, all we watch them do is get bullied or have one bully the other, so it's all misery and no levity when they're kids. And as adults, the twin we follow does the I stay away from my son for his own protection bullshit, which, again, like, he doesn't know his family tree and he's 16. You made him a little too much of a dick here. And it's painfully obvious that being closer to his son with this family curse would have actually protected him. I know that's a harder lesson for people to understand in reality, but we know we're watching fiction here. Not to mention the one scene where we actually do see the absent dad in this, he's literally doing everything in his power to get rid of and destroy the monkey for people's own protection. So weirdly enough, in one scene, we feel for one absent dad and hate the other. It's kind of fucked up. The other twin James plays in this Jack Torrance type of way that's meant to be campy and could have been interesting, but he's not on screen enough for them to take full advantage of that. But at least Theo James actually had scenes to attempt character development. The side cast ranging from Tatiana Maslany as the mom who does nothing but complain about her life, Sarah Levy, and especially Elijah Wood are all extended cameos that they do nothing with. Colin O'Brien as Theo James's son I should feel sorry for because, again, his dad didn't even bother to say, hey, I'm a twin, you have an uncle. But again, the son does nothing but complain about his life and that's it. We never see what he does in his downtime. He can literally collect stamps for one scene and one scene only, but at least I'd remember something about him. Elijah Wood's cameo especially pissed me off because of all the deadpan characters in this, he's so cartoonish and in his own world that the sound of him drinking out of an oversized water bottle was enough to make me chuckle. He's this Happy Madison-style villain who's Theo James's ex-wife's new husband and stepfather to James's son. Wait a minute. Who's a rich, spoiled asshole, but in the context of the movie is more attentive and supportive than the actual father. I was actually kind of digging him. And then he's just gone.
By the way, I'm in the tiniest little moment in that movie, but
he's one of many characters in this that you want to watch die, and we don't even get that satisfaction. It was such a wasted opportunity because we get way too many scenes of the villain's henchman, this Val Kilmer, Jim Morrison-looking motherfucker who is so plot-conveniently stupid, you wonder what use he is to anyone. Then again, the villain in this looks like Bryan Adams as Constantine. Or this 20-something priest during the flashbacks who gives the most generic, inappropriate eulogies every time someone dies. Wow, talk about untimely, am I right? I'm sure you're all thinking, Jesus, that's not cool of you, bro. Lastly, while I wouldn't call this a message movie, there are 2 death scenes in particular that try to have social commentary about gun violence that not only is inconsistent, but completely contradicts itself by accident. The first death is so preachy that it ends with a sign that says, guns don't kill, people kill. Which I know is meant to criticize right-wingers for being ignorant about safety, but here's the problem. We know a wind-up monkey doll is literally orchestrating these events, and that even if the gun wasn't there, something else in that house, in that room, would have killed the person regardless. And the second death involves the dumb henchman I complained about earlier, who plays with it like it's a Looney Tune, and yet his stupidity, without getting into specifics, literally saves the hero. And the hero wouldn't have been saved if the guy wasn't being so reckless with the fucking gun. If you're trying to tell us that guns shouldn't exist, Perkins, you totally suck at it. As much as I didn't like the monkey and felt that Perkins's decisions towards the horror, the comedy, and the character development, or lack thereof, just didn't pay off for me, I'm always going to give him the benefit of a doubt, because whenever he makes a movie, for better or worse, it's so vastly different from everything else he's made that it's hard not to respect him as a filmmaker, and when he makes a hit, I'm on the edge of my seat, and it's so unique compared to everything else out there. And with that, guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the monkey. What's your favorite Oz Perkins movie? Because I'm still going to go with Longlegs and Blackcoat's Daughter as a close second. Whatever they are, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, check me out on Patreon and buy me a coffee, and I'll see you all in the next review. Take care.